Long before there were pharmacies, there were healers. Mothers, fathers, and neighbors who turned to the earth for wellness. Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast with Jim Applegate. Each week, we explore the plants, traditions, and time-honored remedies that connect us to that ancient wisdom, so you can bring it into your modern life.
Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast. So today we want to talk a little bit about what the scientists are calling your second brain. Did you know that there are more nerve cells in your digestive tract than in your spinal cord? And some of the happy chemicals, serotonin, your gut actually produces 90% of that as opposed to other parts of your brain. You know, the happy chemical, it helps regulate your mood. It helps you calm, generates your happiness. And so basically, a lot of people have always treated them as two separate things, but they're actually interconnected. And we want to talk about that today.
Yeah, Dad always said that disease starts in the digestive tract. He wasn't talking about heartburn and bloating. He was talking about everything: mood, energy, immunity, clarity. He understood this connection before it had a scientific name.
So we want to talk a little bit today about that gut and brain connection. So like your digestion and how it affects and so much that goes along with your mood and your immunity and everything that basically what your digestion has to do with your health, because it is part of your second brain, but the two of them, your digestion affects your brain. When I was preparing for this podcast, it reminded me, Lynn has hypoglycemia, and sometimes when she doesn't have enough food or anything like that, she always says her brain isn't functioning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though, because I've noticed that it's either I need food, so my stomach is too empty, but if I overeat, especially if it's the wrong foods, I am shocked at how much that affects how my brain feels. And not just that it won't function, but that it has no tolerance for anything. Noise, arguments, like anything. I'm shocked at how much my stomach is tied to everything else. So besides the low blood sugar part of hypoglycemia, just how my body deals with food. And it's almost like takes the processing of the food, if I eat too much, takes so much of my entire body's energy that I have no energy left for anything else.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about, there's all sorts of big words that go around it. The enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve. Basically, these are the parts of our body so the enteric nervous system is basically the nerve cells that operate inside our digestive tract. That it actually operates independent of our brain. But like Lynn said, if there's not enough food or too much food, that becomes overwhelmed and the rest of your body pays for it. And so that enteric nervous system, that nervous system in our digestive tract, it communicates with our brain through the vagus nerve. And Lynn always talks to me a lot about the vagus nerve and if it's blocked or if it's not connecting and stuff like that. One of our therapists, a manual therapist, talks a lot about the vagus nerve and releasing, like if it's blocked or you have that lack of communication, and how it not only does it affect your digestion, but it affects your brain. 90% of the signals that go from our digestive system that flow along that vagus nerve actually go from the digestive system to the brain. It's what tells our brain, hey, there's enough food, you can start doing whatever or whatever. So not only is it digesting food, but it's sending to your brain like our mood, our stress response, clarity.
How much nutrition is in what you're eating. So that would be part of the brain signals is, okay, she fed us crap again today. All these systems got to wake up and run on fumes. And and stuff, or wow, she fed us good today. Let's just get ready to get a whole lot done. Like yeah, either way. But if the vagus nerve is blocked or something, that's like it's your highway in your body that's moving so much information and keeping things moving. And that would be like a major accident on the freeway that just slows down or stops everything and then nothing can function.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, serotonin, that's the chemical in our body that regulates our mood, our sleep, our appetite, how we deal with other people. 90% of the serotonin in the body is actually produced in the digestive tract, not in our brains. There's so I remember years ago we were going somewhere and somebody was talking about a link between children that have emotional issues that lash out and things that the effect of that is digestive. It's not the children with attitude problems or social problems or everything like that. This person was saying that it boils down to digestive issues.
Yeah, well, a gut that is inflamed, depleted, or out of balance is a gut that cannot produce serotonin properly. And if it's not producing it properly, then there's all sorts of craziness, especially in a kid. So, like me, I can kind of recognize, oh wow, things are off. I ate too much. I ate the wrong thing. I did whatever. Kids don't notice that. It just shows up in their demeanor,
Their demeanor and their attitude and
in their attitude,
Mhm.
but also in their tolerance for even thinking. If I'm thinking about me and how my brain feels when I eat wrong and I can't think straight, I can't anything, and that kid is at school and has to continue to push through it and deal with like way more people than I ever have to deal with on a daily basis, and we expect him to hold it all together. Their gut would be a huge, huge deal with that.
Yeah.
But when my grandparents had their diet cleaned up and their digestion restored, their minds cleared. So grandma and grandpa Hunt, they had moved in right next to my parents. Their kids had decided that's what needed to happen for their end of life stuff. They thought they'd only live a short time and stuff. And my mom cleaned up their diet immediately, took them off of canned food, and because they had eaten great their entire life until they started getting old. And then because they had their own garden, they had their own food they had canned. But when they got really old, they started eating out of a can and eating all this instant food and stuff. And as soon as it made night and day difference when she put them back on real food and helped to make sure that they were eating enough and getting enough. It made them completely different people.
Yeah. So let's talk about the five things that really mess up your digestive tract and mess up the production of serotonin and all of those chemicals. So the first big one on the list is ultra processed food.
Yeah.
That ultra processed food has things that don't digest correctly. They put certain chemicals into our body. A lot of them don't have fiber, which can cause, like Lynn talked about, that the blockage on the freeway, the
Mhm.
accident on the freeway. And there's not a lot of stuff in there to feed that the microbiome, the bacteria that's in our
Well, not
stomach.
only does it not feed the microbiome, it actually depletes the microbiome because there is stuff in the ultra processed food, especially what they do with oils to make things, the preservatives, the things that make the food last on the shelf. The things they have to take out of wheat and bleach the life out of it and do all sorts of stuff to make it so that that'll last on the shelf and so bugs don't like it? Well, yeah, outside bugs don't like it. The ones that'll get in and eat all your wheat and leave weevils there and everything. They don't like it. They can't eat it. They can't live on it. They die. So why wouldn't our gut biome and all the organisms and everything that do that, they can't live on it either. It really creates havoc in the system. And dad always said Wonder Bread. So the white bread that you buy at the store and stuff, he's like, plumbers use it to clog pipes. Like I remember helping dad with some plumbing things out of the house. And he would get one of those pieces of bread, squish it up really close together, make a ball out of it, stick it in that pipe while he was waiting for glue to dry and everything else, because it would completely clog the water flow for a time, or the leak or the whatever, long enough for him to fix whatever he was fixing on that. Well, it does the same thing in your digestive tract. It just really clogs up and does not move through, especially if you never have any other fiber with it. Meat does not count as fiber. So if you're having a white bread, meat and cheese sandwich, it's not going to go very far very fast, because meat also takes a long time to digest.
Yeah. And, they found that the amount of ultra processed food you eat correlates directly with depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, things like that.
Cognitive decline, and also with your level of getting one of those horrible diseases. It's directly linked to heart attacks and diabetes, and but your percentages of chances of suffering from that are directly correlated with the percentage of ultra processed food that you eat. So if 50% of your diet is ultra processed, your chances are up by 50% of contracting any of those.
Yeah. So Lynn kind of hit on an ultra processed food, but also sugar and refined carbohydrates. I had somebody come in recently to the office, and they're like, the one thing that Dr. James told me that changed my world, that changed everything, he said, get rid of white food, white sugar, white flour. Here in New Mexico, white tortillas,
Which is white flour.
which is white flour. Yes.
And aluminum baking soda, baking
Yeah.
powder.
Yep. So to get rid of the white stuff, sugar and refined carbohydrates, people talk about candida overgrowth and stuff like that. They thrive on white sugar and on white flour. It's like, so it creates an environment where those can really go crazy in your digestive tract, and then it pushes out. There's only so much real estate in your stomach
Mhm.
for digesting food, and if you fill it up with the candida, the other microbes can't survive to help you digest your food.
Well, also candida, when it gets a lot of food that it wants and everything, it does this. I don't know if the word is off gassing, but the after product of candida, the what it puts into your system, actually is horrible on brain fog and everything else. It is like, yeah, it's the fumes from the sewer system, and it really intoxicates the brain, intoxicates all sorts of stuff. So it's not just that you're feeding that candida and it's thriving. You got to realize that everything that it puts off beyond that is like, it's it creates a vicious cycle in your system. And the candida makes you crave sugar and white things a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of times when you're craving sugar, it's the candida's like, feed me.
Yeah. Feed me, feed me.
Yeah. Okay. So the third one on our that we have of the gut wreckers are antibiotics. And even doctors will tell you, hey, like after you have a round of antibiotics, take some acidophilus or whatever to put back what you just
Eats
killed.
him over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. James always talked about antibiotics when they come into the summit, when you take an antibiotic, it doesn't care what kind it is, it's going to kill it. It kills everything. Indiscriminately, it kills it all.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between antibiotics and infection. Infection doesn't kill everything. Infection looks for the bad microbes and the bad bacteria, the bad things, all of the bad things, and it gets rid of those, but it helps the good ones flourish.
Yeah.
And that's why it helps with all sorts of health things. Not only does it help with our immunity, but it helps with anxiety or foggy thinking, digestion irregularity, and stuff like that.
Helps to clear the fog. But the
Mhm.
antibiotics do, like, a lot of people only notice the immediate effect they get. They feel better.
Yeah.
Their infection's gone, the fever goes away, the whatever, and then they forget to do the things to get their guts back in order. And so, like, especially on kids, while all their body is still being built, all their hormones, all their everything like that, the what it does to their gut is just absolutely. So if you have to give them antibiotics, because sometimes there's times when you need that. Make sure you reintroduce all the good stuff
Yeah.
and be consistent with it so that they can rebuild that system.
And just be aware that it's going to take a few months to replace what the antibiotics have
Yeah,
cleared
and to
out.
get the gut balance
Yeah.
back in order, especially if you started out without much balance in the first place, then
Mhm.
it is sometimes it's just a vicious cycle that just seems to never end.
Yeah. So the fifth one on our gut killers is chronic stress. When people are stressed, that's the stomach is where stress is held. Like if you talk to somebody who has ulcers or other digestive issues, it's always because it was triggered by stress. And it's kind of like this vicious cycle. The more you get more stressed, so then you don't have enough serotonin in your body, and then you become more stressed, and it's like, it's like this vicious cycle that just goes on and on and on.
Well, I don't know about you, but also when I'm stressed or when the kids are stressed, they want more of those things we talked about before, the sugar and refined carbohydrates. That's when they're going for chocolate and ice cream, and
Mhm.
they don't say, "Oh, I'm stressed. I think I'll eat a carrot." No, that just does not happen. So
It's like our teenage daughter. She likes these movies, and there's these two girls break up with their boyfriends, and then you see them. They haven't showered in like 3 weeks, and they've just been like laying on the couch in a ice cream coma, and it's
yeah, there's
there's
wrappers of everything all over and empty ice cream containers and
yeah.
flies and yep, that's pretty much what happens. And if you don't stop that cycle, it's definitely a vicious cycle.
so let's so we're talking about some things that cause it. Let's talk about how to see if your gut is or isn't talking to your brain fog. If you have difficulty concentrating, if you're feeling mentally slower or anything like that, that's a signal that, your gut balance is off.
Yeah. Yeah. Anxiety, that seems to come from nowhere. But, I've had that feeling where I think I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling anxious or off or over judgmental about something. I'm like, okay, what's going on? This just did a flip. The gut is sending stress signals to the brain, independent of any external trigger. So even if there's not something external, it can be like what came first, the chicken or the egg. Sometimes it's really hard to tell. Was I stressed first, or did my stomach feel off first, or like I don't know. It's such a crazy thing to be able to kind of. But the more you pay attention to your body, the more you will actually start recognizing, "Oh, wait, it did." Like,
Mhm.
I did this and this happened, or we did this yesterday and today is just, in the toilet.
Yeah.
What's
And
going
and
on?
another one is if mood swings, like if you're totally happy and something happens and you're just all of a sudden cranky, that's a sign that your serotonin isn't getting produced correctly and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so then what about chronic fatigue? I remember shortly after Jim and I were married, like within the first year or 2, for some reason, speaking of those white things that dad
Mhm.
said not to eat, I have no clue why we were having cream of wheat. I'm not talking the stuff my grandma made where you take your wheat, put it in the grinder, send it through, cook it for an hour, add your stuff to it and eat it. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
It's
about the little box of instant white stuff that I don't even know why we had in our cabinet, but I decided to feed that to him and we put sugar on it. And within not very long at all, he was laying on the couch and like just is like my brain doesn't work. It won't even lift my arm. Like just what he was describing, I had felt many times before because when I have a hypoglycemic crash, no matter what it is I've eaten or whatever, I had felt like that. But to see him and his body that seemed to be able to eat anything react that way. I'll never forget that. But and that's definitely the chronic fatigue, a fatigue beyond anything you can do. There is no fake it till you make it when you reach
Mhm.
that point.
Yeah, I remember, like, laying on the couch, and it was like I wanted to cry because I couldn't do anything, but I couldn't cry because there was not enough energy in me to cry. It was just sort of crazy, like, that, one and it may have been building up over time, and that was, like, the straw that broke the camel's back, or it may have just been that meal of, that breakfast, whatever, but I don't think we've had cream of wheat since. So
No, but it still makes me think of kids. 9 times out of 10, we feed our kids in the morning and send them off to school, so we don't know what their reactions are to the food we have, and then we hear on that day, okay, they got in a fight with so and so, they did this, they refused to get their work done, they whatever. I wonder how much of that is tied to how their gut
what they
is
ate for
dealing with
breakfast.
what they ate or didn't eat for
Yeah.
breakfast. Yeah.
So along with the chronic fatigue is poor sleep.
Yeah.
Because if you're not
Yeah.
sleeping well, you're tired, you get the fatigue, and it's like that vicious cycle that we talked about earlier. It just, if you're not sleeping well, you're tired, and if you're not getting good sleep, then you're not. It's just like that cycle of
Yeah, and I don't know how the science of it works, but sleep-wise for me, when I do the wrong things with food and sugar and all of that stuff, because is it perimenopausal? Like I'm just in that stage of life. I have found that hot sweats and achy legs are absolutely tied to what my blood sugar is doing, which is tied to my stomach, which is tied to like all of these things. So I don't know if serotonin is tied up in that. Some expert may be able to tell me how that's tied together, but it's really fascinating to me that when I choose to eat poorly or not keep my blood sugars right, that I'm getting those crazy out of the blue hot flashes, especially in my sleep, which is fascinating because I don't suffer from them during the day at all, but then, like, while you're sleeping, doing absolutely nothing, and I keep the house cold, I get this crazy out of nowhere, and it's usually tied to my blood sugar.
yeah. Yep. So we talked about cravings. If you're craving a soda, craving sugar, craving
Mhm,
whatever, that's those bad bugs in your stomach are screaming to feed them.
mhm. Yeah, and then there's depression. Depression also is tied to your gut, absolutely, for sure. Eh, it's not always, but there's a very definite gut connection with depression. And it was fascinating to me. We were helping out with grandson the other day, well, a few months ago, and we were in the evenings. There was just always this de- depressive down spiral. Like the world got worse and worse, and his view on it got worse and worse as the evening went on. And when we talked to a professional about that and stuff, they said it was a gut issue that we needed to balance his gut in the evenings. Then they gave us some things to do and stuff, and I was shocked. It fixed his evening down spiral that would make it so that he could not even function, which then snowballs into the next day, then snowballs into the next week, month, year, and it was all for him. Not well, doesn't solve everything, but a huge part of it was his digestion. We had to support his digestion, give it the right minerals and the right potassium and the right some other things so that it could digest properly. And then all of a sudden, his depression was much more manageable, and he could see through his fog. So it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, so like a lot of these, they sound like mental health problems, and we're not saying that all mental health problems are digestive problems, but
Oh, definitely not.
there there are definitely signals, and if you sometimes treating mental health problems with when it's a digestive problem, that's like, oh look, there's smoke, we'll fan the smoke out, but never looking for the fire. You want look for the digestive
Well,
connection of
because if
that.
you're taking pharmaceuticals also for all of your emotional needs, you also, if you're not supporting your gut while you're doing that, you just created this system of it masks the issue. You need more help than that. And everybody gets to choose that, choose where they're at. It's wonderful that we live in a day and age when there's medications that can help with the deep depression and things that 150 years ago there was no help for those things. But now there's so many people struggling with chronic depression, and a lot of times it is gut based.
Mhm.
It is gut based.
Yeah. So let's talk about the formulas that help with the digestion. First and foremost would be Colser.
I love culture.
Colser is great. And the funny thing is Dr. James made it for his father, who had they told him he had high blood pressure, and so Dr. James came up with the formula. And so he, at the time when Dr. James was doing that, he was making formulas for individuals. So he's like, okay, what does my dad need to help him with his high blood pressure? And he like looked through the different formulas and came up with this formula. And because they were kind of like hinting at symptoms, but not telling him exactly what was going on. Basically, his dad had really severe ulcers, and they were just saying, "Oh yeah, it's just high blood pressure. It's not that bad." So he'd like made this formula based, what they were telling him, and it turned out to be Colser, which is like it is, as Dr. James said, it helps from the lipstick to the toilet paper, the entire digestive tract. It The herbs in Colser help like with the lining of the stomach. If the lining of the stomach gets inflamed or damaged, that's where ulcers start. It helps with that. It has herbs that help cleanse out the colon. They're
Not like a laxative.
not
It
like a
helps to
laxative. No,
support the colon. Yeah.
sometimes basically there's folds and bends in your colon, and if a little bit of waste gets stuck in there, it sort of like attaches to the colon and sticks. And then you've got like these pockets of stuck stuff, and you can't digest in that area because it's covered up and stuff. And Colser, some of the herbs in Colser actually help to release that. So
Helps the gut lining to be able to do what it was meant to do. Gives it
yeah,
the nutrients it needs to function properly. But sometimes if you're deficient enough, it takes taking it for a while
hmm
to be able to build that system back up to support your digestive system and to get all the lining re
get a
it's not lubricated, it's working better, but Colser also does aid your body's ability for I don't even know if lubrication is the right word, but it makes a huge difference in how everything moves through your bowels because it's able to produce what it needs to because you just gave it the nutrients for it.
yeah. I'm talking about bowels moving, colonic caps. So we came up. Dr. James needed a form. It started off with somebody needed some grapefruit fiber and some psyllium husk. He was going to use those two together to like help move stuff through this client's digestive tract because they were having a really hard time moving stuff. And then he wanted to add apple fiber because that absorbs any toxins that are in the stomach as well. So you've got the psyllium husk, which is kind of like a broom. It just sweeps everything out. But the apple fiber and the I completely lost what that was. The grapefruit fiber, they absorb any toxins, any dead stuff. Like, if you killed off your candida, it's still hanging out in your stomach. And so that absorbs it and holds on to it.
And helps to move it out because it
Yeah.
like absorbs it, takes it on, and moves right along with it.
Yep. So colonic caps is an amazing fiber formula to help move to it's kind of like sweeping out all those corners that we talked about. Colonic caps helps to sweep out all the corners.
Well, I love also that he put diatomaceous earth in colon caps because diatomaceous earth detoxifies the colon and kills intestinal parasites.
hmm
It helps with that gut. I just okay. It's really funny. Diatomaceous earth, actually, they sell it even at feed stores and stuff because of what it does to help animals with parasites. So farmers and people that have all sorts of animals actually put it on their animals' food
And
to help get rid of parasites, to keep the parasites down. And it really helps to keep the gut in balance when you have that in there in colonic cap. So it plays an essential role in what it does,
yeah.
which is pretty awesome because whether we like to believe it or not, sometimes we can have all sorts of bugs in our gut we don't know about and we don't want.
hmm
Parasites
Parasite.
and worms from if we didn't clean our food and just all sorts of stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just gives an extra boost.
And you can be exposed from just about anywhere and not know that you were exposed to parasites.
Yeah, yeah. So then it's just a regular maintenance thing
Mhm.
to have that in your diet regularly.
Yeah. Yep. So another formula that is common with digestion is Zyme. Zyme is basically, it helps when the stomach the stomach isn't processing food correctly, you get fermentation or inflammation. Food, it doesn't get digested completely. On a previous episode, we talked about sometimes capsules don't actually even open in the stomach because the environment isn't correct. Enzyme will help to correct that environment so that you're digesting properly.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool though, because a lot of people think I don't need to take a digestive aid or digestive enzymes or anything like that until my gut's already thrown a fit. Zyme is one of those that if you're eating a meal that you know your body has a hard time digesting, you take Zyme before you eat, and it actually aids in the digestion of it without any without side effects that are because there's so many things on the market that do this digestive aid thing that help it to move through your system. It help make you think it's feeling great, but it's got side effects that are like, I don't know if I like the aftermath of that. Zyme is one of those you can take all the time, anytime. You could take it before every meal if you wanted, and it just helps to support the stomach and the gut biome and the stomach's ability to move everything through. It takes a load off your stomach for it looking for stuff that isn't there and available.
Yeah.
Zyme puts the right things in your stomach to be able to have an optimal environment for that.
And it's kind of like Zyme, if you take it before you eat. Some people think, okay, if I eat this, I'm going to have, they like carry a roll of antacids with them. They're like, I'm going to take this with it and all an antacid is it's a mineral, but a lot of times, they don't have to tell you what they're using as binders or, how do you take a mineral and make it into a
tablet
that you chew up, I mean, it, it, it is very helpful, but, there could be other things in there. Whereas Zyme is just plants, and those plants help your body to digest properly. And if you know it's something that is going to give you indigestion or heartburn or anything like that, taking Zyme beforehand will make a huge difference.
Yeah. Yep, it does. And then also with antacids, because it is a mineral, we found with our grandson that if we gave him a capsule of our PM minerals and or a capsule of our potassium, like depending on, we would kind of muscle test to see which one he needed. And I was shocked at what it did. So it added because he was deficient in those things.
Mhm.
So if you have extra issues, it might be worth checking that out, especially if you use antacids all the time to see if you could use something a little more natural, like PM minerals or other
Mhm.
minerals if
Yeah.
you have something else that works.
Basically, the body uses minerals to regulate the pH of the stomach.
Yeah.
So, like an antacid brings down the pH. If your body doesn't have all the minerals it needs, you can't pull from nothing to
Yeah.
create
And
the digestive environment it needs.
all the green things in Zyme are probably loaded with minerals and other things also, and that's part of why it helps to create that balance.
Yeah. So another digestive formula we have is Live Clean. Live Clean is basically our liver it's the filter of the body. It filters everything and metabolizes it so that your body can get rid of it. And when that gets backed up, there's all sorts of issues. We had my liver quit on me for, and I'm sure it was years and years and years of whatever I
Of
was
building up to that level.
building up to that point. So like Live Clean is one of I take it every day just to make sure I don't end up in
Never
that.
want to do that again. No.
Yeah,
No.
that was.
And I've had liver issues my whole life. Like I get liver spots, especially when I was pregnant and stuff. It just my liver has always struggled. And so Live Clean is something that I take often and regularly, and it makes a huge difference in how I feel. Like
Yeah.
it's really good. But also Live Clean makes a huge difference. Your liver, because it is the filter of everything, if you are eating ultra processed food constantly, if you have a constant stream of ultra processed food going through your body, it is really, really, really taxing your liver. Like it's doing a heck of a lot of work, and Live Clean supports it in that. There's some people that choose they're just going to take Live Clean for life because they want to eat the way they want to eat for life. So it's wonderful that there's options to choose that, and I'm really glad I don't have to sprinkle the herbs that are in Live Clean on my food so that I can digest properly. because those don't taste very good. Mandrake root, gentian, dandelion root. What about golden
Golden
seal? Has
seal.
anybody ever smelled golden seal? If you smelled golden seal, you sneezed and coughed and your eyes were watering after that. And if I had to put it on my food, that would not be yummy. So I love mine in a pill, but it really helps my body to function.
So the last one of our digestive formulas is Clean Lax. And it's funny because that's one of Dr. James's formulas that, like, he always didn't want people on it all the time. It's not that it's addictive. I mean, you can't get hooked on it, but there's a lot of people that use Clean Lax so they can eat whatever they want and do whatever. And
they use a laxative and keep their body in laxative state for just move everything through, don't care what it takes to get it out of there. Yeah.
But there are, there are miracle things. There's a lady she's paraplegic and in a wheelchair, and if she doesn't have Clean Lax, her bowels don't move. So
it creates the stimulation that her body can't do on its own.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Clean Lax is one of ours that kind of comes with a disclaimer of sorts, just because some of our products you can take and like tons and tons of it throughout the day and everything, and it does great. You can take tons and tons of Clean Lax, but eventually you might regret it. It's a start slow thing. Some of my kids tell me they can just open the bottle of Clean Lax and it's done its job. They have to run for the bathroom. All they got to do is smell it. And then there's other people that need to take one, take two, take three. It's one of those start out at the bottom of the number scale and add until it reaches your desired effect. Like it's be cautious with it. One of my sisters wrote an amazing poem after she accidentally took 6 Clean Lax instead of 6 Hayaz. Hayaz is for allergies. Clean Lax moves the bowels. And she's one of those people that always could open the bottle and smell it and it makes you run for the bathroom. She spent the night in the bathroom wishing she was dead because it kicked in so well that she was transparent by the time it was done.
Yes, that is definitely where Dr. James comes up with the word bowel tolerance.
Yeah, bowel tolerance. So start out small and slow on this one.
Yep. So another one that isn't a digestive herb, but because we're talking about that gut-brain connection, is Nervolizer. Nervolizer helps with all of those emotional things. It helps your body produce that serotonin. It helps the nerve tissues around that vagus nerve so that communication can happen. Yeah, Nervolizer it just keeps that nervous system nourished so that it functions better.
Yeah, and it has to go through the gut to get to every system of your body that needs it. So it's healing the gut first. Like it's healing the nerve endings in the gut as it also heals all those other nerve endings. So.
Yeah. Yep. So, diet makes a big difference in this. You can take all the herbs you want. Like we said, you can take the herbs and ignore the problem, or you can change your diet to the point where it makes a big difference.
Which is really hard in our day and age because the sourcing of all of our food and all of our everything, there's a whole lot that goes into diet, and everybody has to kind of figure out what works for them and what their body needs. But truly, without watching your diet and doing some things, all the herbs in the world will only carry you so far.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the right things, the right fiber, all sorts of stuff. Also for me, I mean, we're talking gut health. Coconut oil is amazing. It helps with the microbiome. It helps to move out toxins. It helps to create
makes it slippery
and lubrication. There are so many things. Like for us, when we started cooking with coconut oil, it completely changed our world, giving up the bad oils that you think are adding good oils to your life. They're not. You need to use good oils, and just the switch of using coconut oil in our life helped my entire family with their digestive and with their attitude. It helped with my hypoglycemia. It helps with all sorts of stuff because of what it does for the gut and in the gut. And we're not talking what's the coconut oil that stays runny all the time?
The MCT oil.
The MCT oil, that is not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You need the best one is raw raw,
unfiltered.
unfiltered, organic, like coconut oil, because it's just straight. They steam distill it to get it off to get it. That's its processing. But any of the other kinds, they use some kind of chemical. If it's not steam distilled, then they use some kind of chemical to do it, which reacts in your body. Which we've just had to tell people that quite a few times lately, because they thought that the MCT oil, because it says it's coconut oil, was just as good, and it is not. So for supporting your gut, you need to use.
Yeah. So the your liver actually burns certain oils. That's how it functions. So it's kind of like the fuel for the liver. And what they take out of the coconut oil to make the MCT oil, basically, that's the fuel that's in coconut oil. When you take coconut oil raw, the the unfiltered, unprocessed, that one fuels the liver, but the MCT oil just completely bypasses it. It doesn't do anything for your liver. So the things to basically, and this, Dr. James always said it, add whole grains to your diet. The Dr. James used to say that he really thought that the rise in couples being unable to have children is because the germ was removed from whole grains. That's the part that isn't there. And fermented foods are amazing, especially for the stomach, because they have
kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, those kinds of.
But you want to make sure, like, it's actually real fermented foods. Some yogurt, they make it and then they kill all the bacteria, process it.
Well, there's also some people's gut is in such a dire strait that they have to be very cautious with their fermented foods. So if your body's reacting to it weird, see your physician about it and say, "Hey, I cannot eat any fermented anything. It makes my gut do this," because there's some underlying issues that need fixed when that happens.
And then dark leafy green vegetables are always a great addition.
Always beneficial, but you eat too much dark leafy green in a row. So smoothies are great. I love smoothies, but it needs to have such a variety of balance in what you're putting into it, because just putting too much dark leafy greens over and over in your system can actually stop your bowels from functioning. You get too much iron, too much
concentrating it.
Yeah, you're concentrating it, because seriously, if you think about it, could you sit down and eat that amount of greens sitting in your kitchen at your dinner table, whatever, in a day, in a week? If you're eating a week's worth of greens in one smoothie and you're doing that constantly, that also tracks the system. It's just the law of moderation. Of all things. Yeah. So it's great to have it, but if you think about like 100 years ago, they wouldn't be able to have that much greens year round constantly if they were growing it in their garden and picking it out of their yard. It's just we're able to do it in excess because of how it's supplied to us. So leafy greens are absolutely amazing. Just also make sure you're not doing way too much of it, especially spinach.
So, the gut-brain connection, it's even though it's, quote, new science, Dr. James always called it treating the system. That's you clean up your gut, feeding your digestive system. Sometimes people would come in to see him and he would look at whichever one was bothering them the most, because if you cleaned up whatever was bothering them the most, it usually fixed several of their other issues. Somebody comes in with this long litany list of all these things that are bothering them, and you start with, the digestion was worse. So he would start cleaning up the digestion, which then cleans up all of the emotional things, the anxiety, the brain fog. It
has a cascade effect.
It has a cascade effect. Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
So the formulas, that are helpful. Colser is a definite. If you have that emotional aspect, add Nerquilizer. But just Colser and Nerquilizer will make a big difference. If your gut biome is off, adding Fection will be big. And like Lynn said, adding the minerals, the potassium as that foundation, those are really big to help you get your gut biome back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, and then if you have problems just around eating, sometimes try science. See what that does for you. See if it helps to create some balance because it's got a lot of wonderful green things in it that help with that, especially if you're not a veggie person. There's some people that just they don't eat veggies very
Hmm.
well. Zyme will add digestive digestive greens.
Yeah. So if you're feeling any of this, give it a shot. Try it out for 30 days. See what happens. And it's been great talking with you. If you have any questions, let us know. You can call us, email us,
Yep,
and we'd love to talk to you.
yep,
We
that would
will,
be awesome.
yeah, we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast with Jim Applegate. Visit drugfreehelpstore.com to download your free Healer in Every Home guidebook and explore herbal formulas that support your health naturally. Be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves natural living as much as you do. Thanks for joining us, and remember, true healing starts at home.
It is not the intent of professional herbal instruction or any persons associated therewith to diagnose or prescribe. The intent is only to offer herbal information for your consideration. In the event you use this information without your doctor's approval, you are prescribing for yourself, which is your God-given right. But professional herbal instruction or any persons associated herewith assume no responsibility. The claims and statements made on this podcast have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.